Could you tell us a little bit about the cultural and the astrological significance of the Moai?
Well, the astrological, I don't know how to connect it, but what I can say is that these figures really represent the ancestor. Ancestor cult exists from Southeast Asia all the way to here, but in the different islands, the Pacific, you will have a different way of expressing or being made. You may have a pile of rocks, you may have a wood figure, you may have just a skull, but on Easter Island we have this figure that is half body. But what to me is interesting is how it grows, you know, from a small status with the shape more anthropomorphic, a round head, more human looking, to a status that's very stylized, extended head and ears, and more rectilinear line on the body, and it can go up to 200 tons. So what made these people build bigger and bigger and bigger? On the one hand, I will suspect that because this is such a small place, where the population was growing and growing, there are more labor available. And there's no other challenge to that labor to be used in public work. We don't have extensive piece of land where you can do intensive agricultures and get everybody involved, irrigation, etc. We don't have extensive land even to do something different. What was abundant here, and still is, stone. We have a lot of rocks. It is a volcanic island. So when they find that making the status perhaps will unify the lineage, the family, or the tribe, and when they realize that the statues have carried inlaid eyes because they made it, it looked like alive, and they are standing next to the sea looking to the village, they found that perhaps that's the venue through which to channel all the energy of that excessive labor available by continuous growth of population. So the leaders, the religious leaders, this was a kind of theocracy, they probably channeled those extra hand to say, hey, let's build the figure of our ancestor better than the one the neighbor had. And so they can compete through time. And so we see after 8th or 10th century statue that has been renewed, remodeled. So once a statue gets eroded after 400 or 500 years, and the style have changed, and then they take it off and make a new one. So in that way, they keep adding up and building larger statues, and keeping everybody in harmony. So they were in equilibrium. The whole society were very, very tranquil and focused on their activity until they reach a point that they could not sustain, and then they crack up. Then come the collapse, you may want to call it, the disorders, the inability of the leaders to provide more entertainment or use to those extra labors that being appearing in the growth of the population. But parallel to that, there was a degrading environment. So the soil was not producing enough food. And that produced even a more unique phenomenon that has not been mentioned in the literature, is that what happened ultimately is that the food that became scarce became obviously very expensive. And once the food is very expensive, then you will have more people working for less food, more labor available. So instead of 100 people working, it will be 200 or 300 people working for the same amount of food. It's just the amount of food will reduce per person. And so more labor input into making bigger statues. So here it's contrary to most canon of history, where they say that when you have a surplus, then you produce public work and civilization develop, etc. Here is the reverse. When you have scarcity of food, the food is expensive. So what was here a surplus of is labor. So this excessive labor, really cheap, allowed to produce bigger Moai. Today I think a little bit a certain country in this planet, when they have more than 1 billion people, and the labor is very cheap, and they're invading and producing and invading around the world their technology, their goods, car, shirts, name it. If you go to China, you realize that we have what happened on Easter Islands centuries ago.